kissed her in the fall. He took her to a movie, and when they done it all, he took.
Hello and welcome to the Fabulous Picture Show. I'm Amanda Palmer, and this week we've got British director Andrew Lang, and we'll be screening his award-winning new documentary, Sons of Cuba.
But so did I.
It's Eye of the Tiger time, as these young Rockies fight to keep Fidel's spirit alive.
¡Adelante, cubano! ¡Patria muerte!
Moments like these were pure gold for the film's director.
I was just crouched behind my cameraman, just going.
Also on the show, some important life questions.
Where do babies come from in America? Do they come from coal cans?
Are asked in a fantastic new claymation. But first, who's the most versatile actor of our time? Well, how about Sir Ben Kingsley? Well, when he recently attended the Doha Tribeca Film Festival, he was kind enough to talk about almost everything.
Who the devil are you?
My name is Gandhi, Mohandas K. Gandhi.
Playing the man who embodied the Indian independence movement, launched the film career of Sir Ben Kingsley.
This salt comes from the Indian Ocean. Let every Indian claim it as his right.
Gandhi made him a global star and won him the Oscar for Best Actor. But in the 28 years since donning the iconic white robe,
Friday!
I won't be there.
You will!
No, don't.
Yes, yes, yes!
Sir Ben has portrayed a range of equally vivid and ethnically diverse characters,
You really are demonstrating some whopping great ego, Mike.
including a sociopathic British gangster.
That's all beginning this with your right turn off!
He's played Jews in concentration camps twice, once as Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal, and again in Schindler's List.
How many times have I told you? Your work certificate you keep in your pocket at all times.
And also been an exiled Iranian army officer.
Soon you will have nothing. Beginning tomorrow, you will begin packing, and there's no more to discuss. Mrs. Pirani, do not open your lips.
Brought up in Manchester in the 1950s, the son of an Indian doctor and a British actress, he attended a top school. But at 19 decided against medicine for acting.
Do you live round here, then?
Yeah.
Swapping his birth name, Krishna Banji, for Ben Kingsley helped him secure roles on TV.
I've seen you somewhere before.
Oh, yeah? Where was that, be?
In my dreams.
And on stage.
I owe more tears to this dead man than you shall see me pay.
And he was a respected British actor when Richard Attenborough cast him as Gandhi. Now 66, Sir Ben Kingsley is currently in Martin Scorsese's Shutter Island.
I've built something valuable here. I'm not going to give up without a fight.
And is one of Hollywood's most in-demand character actors. Well, Gandhi won you the Oscar, obviously.
He did.
Yes.
Yes, there
We'll
is a
pretend it was
photograph
there.
of me looking like a demented wine waiter in a white jacket who was saying, "Who ordered the Chardonnay?"
Oh, dear.
Moments of glory are not what you think they are.
Your acting career, it's began very young. People identified your talent from a very, very young age.
I think I was 7 or 6,
Yes.
and I went to see a film called Never Take No for an Answer. It was a story of an orphan.
You're as stubborn as a donkey. Please, Violetta.
I so identified with that child.
You
suppose
that he looked like him too?
Well, he looked very like me, but then after the screening, the owner lifted me up above the crowd in the foyer of the cinema saying, "It's little Pepito, it's little Pepito." And I thought, oh, this is rather nice, I could get used to this. And everyone thought I was the star of the movie.
Things have changed enormously.
Not much.
It wasn't until you were 40 that you really had fame as such with Gandhi, wasn't
That's true. But they are connected, because the theatre that I did for 15 years was classical theatre, so it was Shakespeare. So that when Attenborough asked me to play Gandhi, the Mahatma, in a sense, I was vocally and physically used to carrying that epic burden.
An eye for an eye only ends up making the whole world blind.
Although I'm shy of saying it was a doddle, because it wasn't. It was really hard. It was really hard. Make no mistake about that. But I did have some grasp of these epic sweeps of history seen through the prism of one man's journey.
I beg you to accept that there is no people on earth who would not prefer their own bad government to the good government of an alien power.
Well, besides Gandhi, then, what's the next role for you that perhaps encapsulates that most of all? What's one of your favourite roles?
I better calm down here, because this is becoming an egotistical rant. I'm only as good as the company I keep.
You've had some good company, then.
Yes, but I also mean extraordinary men that I've met, like Simon Wiesenthal, who spent his entire life simply asking for justice.
You're under arrest. We've no choice. They made us do these things, you know that? It's over.
Simon triggered something in me that I allow myself to access and be vulnerable to, and hopefully to emphasize with, and that's suffering on an enormous scale. And then from Simon, I went into a meeting with Steven Spielberg, who asked me to do Schindler's List, and I was very frightened of Schindler's List, because, you know, I've never lived in hell.
You're can't you! Deine Papiere, Jude! Deine Papiere, Jude! That line!
And how do you prepare generally as an actor? What's your process?
Starts with trying to find from the screenplay the why. Why is there a story about this man? In Sexy Beast, for example, I played a character called Don Logan, and I realized, and it's not in the script, that is an abused child.
Why don't you just put the cigarette out?
What's that, Sancho? You want me to cut your hands off, use it as an ashtray?
And as soon as I realized, I then had enormous compassion for him, which allowed me to allow him to be even more violent, because I knew that his level of pain was equal to the violence he would mete out to others.
Get out, Don! Get out!
You have played probably more nationalities than most actors would ever dare to try.
I know that genetically I'm fortunate enough to have a face and a physiognomy, maybe a voice that can be, it's plastic enough to be shaped. But I don't think it is that, you see.
What do you think it is?
It might be to do with empathy. So I think what it is I can hear things. I can hear the Polish Jew. I can hear the Iranian Air Force commander. I can hear Gandhi from Gujarat.
We'll go.
I just feel immensely privileged to allow these stories to come through me.
If you think all claymation is just happy, clappy entertainment, well, a delightfully dark new film is out to change that perception. It's called Mary and Max.
8-year-old Australian Mary Daisy Dinkle isn't much of a looker.
Mary Dinkle's eyes were the colour of muddy puddles. Her birthmark, the colour of poo.
And her home life's not the most blessed.
Vera liked listening to the cricket while baking. And her main ingredient was always sherry.
Hungry for friendship, she randomly picks a name from a New York phone book.
It would be great if you could write back and be my friend. Where do babies come from in America? Do they come from cola cans? In Australia, they are found in beer glasses.
Her letter reaches Max, an obese Jewish loner with Asperger's syndrome.
Unfortunately, in America, babies are not found in cola cans. I asked my mother when I was 4, and she said they came from eggs laid by rabbis. If you aren't Jewish, they're laid by Catholic nuns. If you're an atheist, they're laid by dirty, lonely prostitutes.
Far-fetched it may sound, but the film's not entirely fictional.
Mary Max is based on my pen friend, who I've been writing to for over 20 years. He is Jewish, he is an atheist, he is a member of Overeaters Anonymous. He does have Asperger's. Yeah, it's probably out of all my films, probably the one that's most based on a real person.
The illustrious cast features Philip Seymour Hoffman as Max.
Have you ever been attacked by a crow or similar large bird?
Toni Collette as the adult Mary.
Dear Max, I have been such an idiot. I know love upsets you, so I won't go on about it. All I want to say is that love is obviously not for me.
And Barry Humphries as the narrator.
He wondered if he should go to bed and count sheep, or have one more chocolate hot dog.
It's all painstakingly realised through old-fashioned claymation. Ooh.
It's like making love and being stabbed to death at the same time. It's this bittersweet experience, and you know, some days are excruciating. I mean, we only animate about 5 seconds per animator per day.
That's 1,104 animator days to create this quirky, heartwarming tale.
Hopefully one day our sidewalks will meet and we can share a can of condensed milk.
In part 2, we're screening Sons of Cuba. I have the filmmaker here, Andrew Lang. And the Sons of Cuba are wannabe Olympic champions in boxing.
Yeah, that's right. This is a film about 3 children in Havana dreaming of being Olympic champions. And they go to this boarding school where they live, sleep, dream boxing in pursuit of this wonderful goal.
This is a plausible goal, though, isn't it, to be an Olympic champion in Cuba?
If they really sacrifice themselves like they're meant to do in their training in the film, then they've got a really good chance of making it.
We're going to find out how they do in part 2. See you then.
He met her in the fall.
Hello everybody, welcome to this special screening of Sons of Cuba. Can I please introduce the filmmaker? This is Andrew Lang. Now Andrew's had a lot of awards, he's done a lot of festivals with this film, so we're very happy to have you here.
Thank you, I'm thrilled to be here.
And it wasn't exactly an easy film to make, was it, to get into Cuba for a start?
Well, the main battle with setting up this film was getting the access, and that took about a year, and the main key to that was that I got residency in Cuba and then worked with a Cuban crew. Once we'd jumped through that hoop, we felt we were well on our way, and I hope you enjoy the film.
They will, and you're about to see 2 years of Andrew's life on film, behind the camera.
Actually 4.
4! Double that. Enjoy the film, talk to you afterwards. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sons of Cuba is a boxing film, but it's mainly about struggles outside the ring. Take Yazwani Morgan, head trainer at the Havana Boxing Academy. His determination to regain the national title from their biggest rivals means molding champs from a motley crew of young contenders. And with each child fighting his own personal bout, he's got his work cut out. There's Santos, the singer, who battles with bereavement and a love of junk food. And Junior, the Dalmatian, making a tough switch from ballet to boxing.
Mi papá y el profesor piensa que yo soy compasivo con el contrario.
And Christian, son of a former world champion, he's got a lot to live up to.
Ese niño es capitán de capitán, campeón de campeón.
And something to prove after losing in the finals the previous year.
Estoy entrenando que cada día más fuerte para que no pase lo mismo del año pasado.
Amid the economic destitution and political indoctrination, Andrew Lang's feature debut portrays a people of incredible willpower and indelible dignity. Andrew, one of the great things I love about the film is the humanity. I mean, when we think of a sport like this, we think of Muhammad Ali, we think of broken noses and ugly faces. But indeed, we see a beautiful side of love and compassion in this film. Something you expected?
No, not at all. I arrived at the academy in the afternoon, and I decided to stay the night with them and get up at 4 in the morning. And I suddenly found myself literally living the first scene of the film, standing in the pitch black with all these 10-year-olds running around chanting communist slogan and doing this furious training. And so I thought that was the only side of it, and it wasn't until I got more into it that I found that they had this extraordinary coach who really loved the kids and was like a kind of surrogate father.
Sueño con ser campeón olímpico. Estaba campeón.
You started out with a film that you thought was going to be about finding the new champions for the Olympics. But then you have this amazing moment in history when Fidel Castro cedes his power to his brother Raúl.
Proclama del comandante en jefe al pueblo de Cuba. 1. Delego con carácter provisional mis funciones como primer secretario del
It was an extraordinary moment. We were always trying to find ways that this wasn't just a story about boxing, but it was actually a story about finding out what it was like to be a child growing up in one of the world's last communist states, and kind of the extreme of that, which is not just being an ordinary child, but being groomed to be. Castro calls these sportsmen the standard bearers of the revolution. So it was like the extreme of a childhood in communism.
Si los Estados Unidos se atreviera a atacarnos en esos momentos de tristeza, nosotros íbamos a salir a defendernos y a defender a nuestra patria.
That kind of very strong fighting talk from these 10-year-old boys, that's what they're taught in school, and that's what they really think at that age.
Or certainly you could get that little kid to impersonate him again, and then nobody would know that he'd had to cede power.
That was such a gift, that moment. I was just, when we didn't know that was going to happen, and I was just crouched behind my cameraman, just going.
Ayer fueron 82 hombres, hoy son 100,000 hombres dispuestos a defender nuestra revolución socialista.
One of the things that makes them so fascinating is that they're still at that age where they haven't begun to question the ideology.
Adelante, Cubano, patria o muerte.
Even when I went back a year after shooting, and certainly now, going back a couple of years later, the questions have begun to appear. But at this age, they have this kind of blind loyalty.
Estamos enviando médicos a otros países, por eso nuestro comandante es admirado a nivel mundial.
I spent some time in Cuba as well. What we found so curious was many times we would ask people, if you had the choice between capitalism and socialism, what would you choose? And I think almost every time they said the ideology of socialism. I'd love to hear from the Cuban lady in the back if we could. Can you perhaps elaborate on that?
They cannot deny their reality. They cannot go anywhere anymore. The people, lots of people had left already, but they are there and they believe in the revolution. If they tell you they believe it, also if they had criticism, they're not going to tell the outsider. Otherwise, it will be a betrayal. You see.
I think there's a strong element of that. I definitely found there was some allegiance to the ideals of the revolution, but I think most people would tell you that on a practical level, they're pretty desperate for change.
Mi papá, Luis Felipe Martínez, fue campeón panamericano, centroamericano, mundial y olímpico. Que yo quisiera ser igual que lo mejor.
The father made it to the top. In his middle age, what is left for him? Also, the boys who don't make it to the top, what happens to them?
Before the fall of the USSR, there was a higher living standard generally in Cuba. And during that era, if you were a sportsman, you were well looked after. You got a better house, you might get a car, you got a bit more salary.
Cuando yo vine de llegar al aeropuerto, fui en medio de la medalla. ¿Tú sabes que cargó a tu hermano Jan?
Sí, en una foto creo que está.
Jan le hizo pipí.
The margins are so narrow now. You know, a sportsman, a double Olympic champion might get a car. You know, a lot of them, if they're just Olympic champion, will get a bike and $500, you know. And it seems like the boys hadn't quite worked out that it, you know, and, you know, you wondered what Christian was thinking when he saw his father. And, you know, at some point, and it's probably, I'm sure it's already happened, he thinks, well, if I make it and I do as well as my father, this is what I'll get.
La gente rememoran peleas antiguas. ¿Te acuerdas cuando peleaste con fulano? Yo me reía, yo disfruté.
It's really tragic when they've given so much to the country and the sport. So that's the end for a boxer in Cuba. That's the reality, and that's why so many sportsmen are leaving at every opportunity at the moment.
Dealing with issues like defection. This is not something that the Cuban society tends to broadcast on their television news.
That area in the film was very sensitive, and I remember the bit in the film where the coach is talking about the defections. I remember that being a very tense interview.
Sí, tuvimos éramos amigos.
ellos mismos se han empañado, se han apagado.
I asked the Cubans what they thought about the portrayal of that in the film, and the sort of general response was that it was to the limit of what was okay.
Because we're talking about a national offence, so when you do go off and become a professional player, you are breaking the law.
Fidel puts it on a par with a soldier joining the other side in the middle of a battle. You know, they're traitors. That's the word they use to describe them.
Algunos de ustedes traicionan el cariño de los profesores, de sus compañeros. Entonces no son traidores. Entonces ustedes no van a traicionar a su padre, no van a traicionar a su equipo. Y si Habana, campeón. No se lo misterio. Vamos, campeón.
What's your favourite moment in the film?
Favourite? I think the end of it. That was just amazingly moving.
You almost thought they were hamming it up, the two coaches, you know, and they were going to take each other down. And the image of them crying their eyes out and cuddling, like two big teddy bears, is just beautiful.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about documentaries, that stuff just happens in front of your camera that you could never even have imagined. And you just don't know what to make of it. And that was certainly one of those moments.
Congratulations on your first film. We look forward to the second one. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. And thank you, Andrew Lang.
Cheers.
Yo hablé con mi padre y me dijo que me había felicitado por haber cogido ese resultado. Y me dijo que todavía me faltaba mucho hacer y como... Pero que me estaba acercando,
Well, that's it for this Fabulous Picture Show. Andrew, what kind of boxer do you think you would have been?
I'd enjoy the training. It looks...
You'd enjoy the training?
To an extent, until I started getting tired. But when it comes to standing up in front of someone in a ring and getting hit in the face, I think my capacity for that might be slightly limited.
Stick to filmmaking.
Definitely.
See you on the next Fabulous Picture Show. Take care.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this film and why?
I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed it.
I think I'd have to give it a 10 out of 10.
I thought it was just beautiful and really showed kind of the spirit of the country.
I just can't believe how much passion and emotion there was in it.
I think it's taught me that Cuba's a much more loving country than I ever really realised it was.